Hello, hello. If you are an English learner living in North America and you want to improve your pronunciation, maybe have more of an American accent, reduce your foreign accent, and you have come to the right place. And I have a very, very special guest today. It's Carrie. She is an accent coach and she's from a different culture. I'm not going to say too much right now just to create some curiosity. You have to stay till the end to find out. So, Carrie, Carrie, how are you doing today?
Hello, hello. Doing well, doing well. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on. Doing well. Yeah, here I am.
I'm
Hi.
happy. I'm happy you're here. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and what you do?
Right. So, I am Carrie, but in my passport, my name is Carolina, but I had to change it a little bit and had to adapt it some because of where I am located at, that is New York. And whenever I said that I was Carolina at a Starbucks, it kind of gave me trouble. And I was always called something else on my cup, and it just was something different entirely. And I just figured I was so in love with Sex in the City, the iconic show, and Carrie Bradshaw, the major character on there, that it was time that I changed my name to something that was a little bit more. I don't know. I just decided I would facilitate things for myself and others, and that happened a good 10 years ago. So that is my second name, if you will, and I have been Carrie for a good while, and that is me. That is my name as far as what I do. I am an accent coach, but I was an English teacher for very many years. And at a certain point, I decided to delve into the phonetic musical uh, part of it all because it played a huge part in my, let's say, in my um, having assimilated, in my having become part of the United States, because I moved here 15 years ago, which no, that was not 15 years ago. 2013, that was when? 13 years ago. There we go, right. But there was a lot of, you know, a lot of going here and there and moving around back and forth. I have a very funny biography geography-wise, and I was never really staying in one and the same place for long. But, as far as the question, "Where are you from?" I just like to say that I'm a New Yorker because that is where I'm at right now, and that is what I identify with, culturally speaking. And it's just that I'm a cosmopolitan, a person of many worlds, and, New York represents that for me, and, I guess that is what I am, an accent coach, New Yorker, and a Carrie. There we go. That
I
was a
like
very long
it.
answer, a long-ass answer, but there we are.
I love it. And if anyone's watching and you have a Starbucks name, because I know there's people who have their real name and then they have a Starbucks name just because there's different reasons. Maybe it's because people always misunderstand it. Comment down below your Starbucks name if you have a different one than your real name, and I'm gonna read it at the end. So I'm really curious to see this. I'm thinking about making a Starbucks name as well, so
Really?
I wanna know.
Just for the hell of it, I mean, everyone's got one. Why not, right? That is fair,
Uh,
fair.
I think the first person I met that had that was my cousin. I was with him, and it was, like, a totally different name. I was like, "That's not your name." He's like, "It's Starbucks." It is.
There we are, come on. You never know what they're doing. And I mean, I feel for them. So many names, flowing right in. You never know what to do with it. I can only imagine as a barista. So, yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
So let's jump into accent coaching stuff. I would love to know, because I saw your bookshelf once on an Instagram reel, I think. What are your favorite accent or pronunciation books or references?
Oh, good lord. I mean, that is a very hard question to tackle because, I mean, there's so much out there. And I was thinking the people who'd be watching, most of them will be students, as opposed to, coaches. although who knows? Who knows? But, I was thinking of student-centered, speaker-centered type guides and books, right? Something that they would benefit from directly. And there was one book that I really wanted to mention. It's by someone who you might know. Her name is Nick Redman, an Irish, coach who is a voice coach more so than an accent coach. And voice work is a huge part of what we do, I feel. So, breath work, getting rid of tension, learning to be present, being all I'm here and I'm here to talk. And it's not just about the sounds that I produce, but it's about just, like saying, I'm Carrie and I want to talk to you no matter, where I'm at in my journey. And Nick is really great at talking about all those things in really simple terms, very friendly, not at all academic. Not that I've got a whole lot against academia. It's fine. Okay. But it's
Yeah,
not a whole lot of fun to work with on your
I
own with
agree.
a book, you know? So, this first book that I wanted to talk about is called On the Mic because she's a podcaster and she
Mhm.
does a lot of workshops for podcasters. And everyone's a podcaster these days. Everyone's like, "What do I do with my voice? How do I make this work?" Right? So, and everyone who's got a podcast has got a voice, and come to think of it, everyone who's got a voice needs to think a little something about how to work their voice, how to sound good and feel good when they talk to people, right? So it's like
Mhm.
this speaker centric guide. I like this description of it, right? So, and it's like for presenters and just for people who talk, right? And it's grounded in real use, right? So, like how to take care of your instrument. So, I need you guys to think of like your voice is your instrument. Y'all, you're
Mhm.
musicians, okay? You're playing music every day, all right? And it's like she talks about like warm ups and how everyone needs to warm up their voice a little bit every day intentionally. How everyone needs to meditate a little bit and it doesn't have to be woo woo and crazy and something that's, I don't know, completely out of this world. It's got to be something very approachable and very, I don't know, normal, right? So you connect with your mind, you connect with your vocal folds, you connect with your body, and your voice starts somewhere at your feet, basically. You need to connect with the floor and the ground that you're standing on to really feel, yourself whilst you're talking to someone. Okay, I'm here. Okay. Like I'm not in my mind, in my head, thinking about whether I'm doing well enough, whether, you're not self-conscious, but you are present in your body. And she talks about that a lot. And it all starts with body work, basically. So that is the first book that came to mind, honestly. Like, like healthy voice presence, clarity, for everyday real speaking situations, not theory shit. Yeah, I swear a lot. You guys get ready for that. So so that is like the first thing, honestly. So on the mic, it's I don't think there's a physical copy out there.
Okay.
There might be a couple, but that is definitely like on Kindle, and there's like online versions of it all over, and it's very accessible. And I've been recommending it to everyone, so everyone should have a copy. She doesn't pay me for this, but honestly, definitely should have that in your library. So, that's the first thing. Yeah. Yeah. Anything I've talked for like 5 minutes. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
totally fine. Is there another book you'd like to share? If someone said, "I want to improve my American accent," do you have,
mhm.
like, a go-to book that you recommend to
Yeah.
clients?
I do you well, I mean, there's one that I use constantly,
What is it?
and I'm wondering if you also use it. It's, oh my goodness, I haven't even it's, Master Your American Accent by Lisa. I wanna
Yes, I was just gonna see
say
if I had it with me, but I'm pretty sure I was like, "She's gonna say the one I think I'm thinking of," but Mastering the American Accent
right.
by Lisa I don't know how to say her last name.
Watson, and then it says MA.
Yes,
Uh,
I'll link it down in the description of this video
it's
or
it's
later.
very, very, like, friendly. It's got a friendly interface, right? So, and I use it a lot to practice.
Mhm.
I'm not crazy about the audios. They're a bit artificial for my taste, but the exercises, the descriptions, um, they're all right. So I do use them a lot for practical work. Like I rely on it as an accent coach a whole lot, and I know that all of my colleagues do. So she's done a great service for the whole of the industry with that book. So
Yeah.
mm, yeah,
I
definitely.
think that was the first book that I got with all about American accent training, and I was like, "I love this." I haven't listened to the audios though, but I guess I
Well,
didn't really feel the need to.
yeah, so
Yeah.
uh, it's not the best skill,
No.
honestly. So, well, yeah, because there's a bit of it's just not. It just doesn't sound real. I see where they came from, but they were like amongst the first. They were the pioneers. So the idea was to do it in a way, in a manner that was really like easy to follow, I guess. But it just makes it so not relatable at the end of the day, and I don't think that's what we want for students. So,
Mhm.
but she is great,
Yeah.
Lisa. However you say the last name, Modgson, I believe is the way to say it. Mojsin, everybody. That is how you spell it. She is the greatest. So she like opened some doors for us all in terms of materials. So
Mhm.
she's
I
definitely
agree.
wonderful. Um and then you know what? There is this wonderful book called Experiencing Accents.
Yeah.
Um and it's different because it opens like different perspectives. Um, it was published by Knight Thompson Speechwork. Have you heard of those guys?
I haven't.
Kind of, it might ring a bell. I think because it's like they're all over Instagram, but they are. They've got like it's like a franchise almost. But um, they're all about um they're all about extending the idea of what qualifies as a good accent, you know? There's no one
Mhm.
standard, there's no one general something, just kind of opening our minds to what is good, what works, you know? So, and they just kind of, they basically, um, I want to say again, it's not so much practical. But it just sort of lifts the pressure. It helps you not feel like there's one way to do something.
Mhm.
And and it introduces the idea of identity, which is so very important in accent work. Like there's a person behind an accent. You guys are people. People talk, not like it's not like a mouth that is, attached to a body. It's like there's a brain in there and there's a psyche and there's a background and there's emotions and there's all kinds of complexes and there's a history there. And you cannot just detach that. You need to think about
Mhm.
that because you always take that with you whenever you talk to a person. And you need to think about that prior to talking to somebody so that it doesn't just like explode into your listener's face and you're just, tensing all over the conversation. You need to think about that before and not during. So that sort of book that talks to you about that, that prepares you for all that stuff. It's a good one to have in your library. So,
Yeah.
so there
I
you
like
go.
it. I
Those
love
three,
it.
I think. I suggest those three.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the next question, which I'm super excited about. I could have done research before coming on with you, but I was like, no, I want Carrie to tell me everything. And that is, what is code switching
Mhm.
and how would you explain it in simple terms?
Okay. So, well, first off, we could just go code is, um, what we speak in is code, right? So language is code, right? And we
Mhm.
switch, we change, we swap. So it's not just one, it's two or more. And we go from one to the other, one to the next, and then we go back. And thing is, it's about adjusting a lot. Question is, why do we change it? Why do we adjust? Right. And we do so depending on who you're with, where we are. And this one is my favorite. What's at stake? Like,
Okay.
what's of importance? Like, what's going on? What's important right now? What's driving the change? Why would I change what I'm saying and how I'm saying it to begin with? And what's important here, the code doesn't have to be just the words, right? Just the language. Everybody code switch, even a person who's monolingual, someone who
Okay.
talks in one language all day long, right? It's just that not everyone realizes it. So there's also tone, rhythm, there's like politeness, energy. There's always the facial expressions, right?
Mm.
There's, you talk to a younger person, an older person. You cannot talk to everybody in one in the same fashion. You just can't. I used to think that one could, like when you are young, you're like, I need to be myself. So there
Yeah.
should be like one way to present. I don't want to be different for anybody. That is such load of BS. It's just not how it works. We're different with everybody to an extent. And it's so normal. It's just like social, I don't know, social
Like
competence.
norms, expectations kind of thing?
Absolutely. It's just being a grown up, I guess. You know? So it's like having like different, if we were to think of an analogy, right? So simple terms, it's always about metaphors, analogies, like different playlists for like different domains, different rooms of your life, right? So there's different music for different situations. That pretty much is what this is. Like you are the same person, but you got different settings and you play different
Mm.
music. And everyone does this. It's just that not everyone is aware of it, basically.
Okay. So it's like we have different behaviors and ways of speaking and acting depending on like the three things you mentioned, like the circumstance, what's at stake,
Mhm.
and who you're with.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like work, my code would be different at work with
Yeah.
for an employer than if I was out with friends.
Yes.
Oh,
100%. Think so.
interesting.
And it doesn't have to be like the difference doesn't have to be like extreme, right?
Yep.
It could be subtle, right? But there's nuance. And a person who like registers this stuff or who's really like sensitized to those differences, they're like, oh yeah, something's shifted. So it's like shape shifting in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have other questions, but I'm going to wait until we get to the other ones just in case it is mentioned. But the next one is why do people code switch?
Well, I did want to kind of play off of you. Like, why do you think? Do you have anything that's like that first thing that comes to mind? Like, why do we need to do that? Why do we feel the need to
I
switch a little bit? Any
I feel
thing
like
that's natural.
ooh, my first instinct is social norms. So it's like the way I would act like where I'm from is a little bit different than how I'd act or talk where I'm living now. Just culturally, there's different kind of expectations or you kind of I don't want to say fit into the mold because you're still the same person. And
Mhm.
then also like I'm just thinking like when you would talk to like a small child, it's a lot different than an adult, but it's kind of like meeting at what I don't know. I don't know if I'd say you're meeting their needs, but you're meeting them where they're at,
Yeah,
maybe.
I love that. Right, right, right. The
Should I pass?
yeah, 100%. Not that, you couldn't not have asked for it. So good, good. So the first of all, the talking to a child versus like a grown up, that's like being a socially intelligent person, right? So like
Yeah.
adapting. So it's about power to an extent, right? So, like you exercise, like, okay, well, I've got power over this person, as in not in a malicious way, but like I've got responsibility, for instance, right? Then there's safety, back to fitting a certain mold, right? There's belonging, always, always belonging, right? The social norms, they're different here than they're there. And I kind of fit in to survive, or to feel good. So if I rebel against those very norms time and time again, well, it doesn't feel so great if you do so on a daily, right? So you do need socially, um, to feel good, right? So there's always the belonging, the safety. Like you want to be understood, you want to be accepted, and like you don't want to like stick out as like a sore thumb. And there's also efficiency. I like that one.
Mm.
Because like there's different contexts and therefore there's different styles, right? So in this context calls for this kind of register. That context calls for something that's a bit more curt or a bit more businesslike or a bit more gentle. Um, it varies from place to place, from room to room, from interlocutor to interlocutor, from listener to listener, depending on their age, their status, again, power status, whatnot. It all is going to matter, whether we want it to or not. Right. So
Mm.
those things. So like there's so much at play all at the same time. So and we feel it, like we read into it and then we gotta. So to survive, basically.
So I have a question that came up for me.
Sure.
I have a lot of clients and students that will say that they'll feel that they need to, how do I say this? They feel like they don't fit into society, like you mentioned, like you stick out like a sore thumb.
Mhm.
What's the difference between code switching and changing who you are? Does that make
Mm.
sense? Like changing who you are, not being authentic to yourself versus code switching. Like, where would you say it's kind of a deep question, but like, what
But
would you say is
code
the difference?
switching is more of a technical term. So it's like when you are like when you s- it's code switching is not necessarily changing your essence. Because when you speak, it's changing. Well, for instance, okay, so um, that's a very good question. It really depends on what it is that one means when they ask said question. Well, for instance, when I'm at home and I'm in the middle of talking to my husband, um, we code switch a lot. What is code switching? Uh, in like technical terms, I could be in the middle of saying a sentence and I switch to Russian in the middle and then I'm back to English. And then at some point I feel like saying something in the Russian accent. Like I just because he's a Russian person, why would I just like not do this? And I feel like doing it for whatever reason, because I don't know, we're in the middle of talking about something and it feels suited, right? Or we're
Mm.
talking about his work that he does in like he works for an American company and he talks to his American colleagues in his Americanized accent. And we talk about it in this code that he exercises with those colleagues. And it just, this domain, and it makes sense for us both to talk about it in that very code. But then there's things that we can talk about in Russian or in English in a Russian accent, and we just switch depending on what feels right, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It's a very personal choice. And it's like I'm not changing as a person. I'm changing gears, I'm shifting gears. I'm choosing as I go and no one's forcing me to,
Mhm.
And it's all about because when it comes to identity, I always say that to people I work with. We're not erasing anything. We're
Mhm.
extending, we're expanding. And in order to sound a certain way, you got to you got to decide whether you want to, you like this very way that we're pursuing. And, you got to develop some interest for it, some like, because if you don't like it, then let's not go there. It's fine. But
Mm,
it's a choice, If you feel like you're forcing yourself, don't go there, you know?
mm,
Because you shouldn't be forcing yourself into anything. 2026, no one should be forcing themselves into a freaking accent. Freaking
mhm,
crazy. Please, let's not do that, Because I love this accent. I've got like my own reasons to, you know? And but I also do this sometimes. I do this and it's fucking awesome. Oh, okay, that was a bit too far. So I'm
wow,
saying,
that's very interesting, and I'm gonna ask this question even though we've kind of touched on it, but what does code switching look like for you personally as well?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm curious.
well, it's a range, right? It's so yeah, there's the professional, there's playful, there's intimate. Like every time you walk into a room, you kind of do a reading, right? It's like you scan a person you're about to talk to for what your choices are. So for instance, um I've got a lot of friends who are bilingual, multilingual, and I've got these choices. Am I going to stick to their first language and my first language? That is L1, right? The one that we were born into. Or are we going to talk in English because that is the language that we talk in all day long? And that just, kind of makes sense because that's the one that we live in. And basically, L1 has sort of been demoted into L2 in practical terms. Um, and um, and with every person, it's different. And sometimes you cannot even explain it. It's like with this person, this feels right. With that person, that feels right. And it's like a number of factors. And if you were to like sit down and analyze it, I guess it's like it's going to be a different profile and different explanation for why I went for this and not that. And sometimes I think, like, for instance, I remember I had this one student back in London, and she didn't know that I knew I spoke Russian. And I switched at one point, and I said something to her in Russian, and she really didn't like it. That was
Mm,
before she was Russian. She was not Ukrainian or anything. It was pre-war. It was not as politically charged. Um, and and we were from the same culture and country and all of it. And and then we had a conversation about that, like what had brought this on, like what I'm sorry, didn't mean to go there. I thought that we'd be connecting as opposed to disconnecting. She's like, I gave it some thought and it, to me it felt like you were like it was this like it was a boundary that you had crossed. Cause
oh,
Because this language I reserve for family, you know, for those who are closest to me. And I was just so unprepared. It's kind of like you just, barged in into this language space. And I was just so not expecting that. And it felt a bit violent almost. I don't know. But I mean, I was totally fine with it. She was honest about it. Certainly did not mean to, for it to come off the way it did. And I never spoke to her in Russian again. Um, I mean, I think it was a bit much, but people are what they are and they feel the way they feel. And languages are very intimate spaces, head spaces. So I get that. And it's different for everybody. So when it comes to switching codes, it really is very personal. And back to what I was saying, um, when it comes to what language I choose, when I talk to people, sometimes I don't even know why. Just this feels appropriate because of probably, I don't know, there's like a proximity that works where this is probably the kind of person that I'm not ready to talk to in Russian, or there's topics that I cannot cover with them in this or that language. And it's just too much to think about sometimes. And you just let languages do their own thing and you don't think about it. So I guess
Mm.
that is it.
So, next question. You mentioned you are from Russia. Well, it's more than that, but Russia.
Yeah, yeah. My
Um,
grandparents were Russian. That's where I grew up. So
and it's from a culture where small talk isn't really a thing. So, you've been to, but you live in North America, so you know we have a lot of small talk. We say, "Hey, how are you?" and a lot of ways of creating conversation that sometimes just I don't want to say it's not there's no meaning to it, but it's, I'll let you talk about how you found small talk when you moved to North America.
well, first of all, I really don't mind it anymore,
Mhm.
and I even like, and it's surprisingly so. I thought that I would hate it always. I thought that I would, you know, what's the word? Uh, Jesus escapes me. Um, that it would drain me always, that I
Yeah.
would dread it always, that it would, I don't know, I think I had a lot of reasons to dislike it, but, one of the reasons was not being ready to engage,
Mm,
um, with strangers just out of the blue whilst just walking the street. I think that was something that I was just not ready to embrace for the longest time because when we had just moved, my husband and I, we lived in a super small town. Um, we that is it, and that is so not the same. If you compare it to New York, where it's like everyone's just hurrying to get somewhere, rushing, and that is the way I like it. Honestly, still, small talk is a huge part of your day but that is it's still not it's very different. But when you're in a small town, it's just constant. You're standing in a line to get coffee. It's like you're just waiting for someone to attack. It's just like, all right, how's your day going? Da, 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 da. And I just felt like I had to be on constantly,
mm,
and I didn't want to be on. I wanted to just be in my own thoughts and not be bothered. And it's like I felt like it was my right. And people were just like with that girl and me barging into her Russian speaking space without letting her know that I'd be doing so in about a second. It's just like, people just leave me the heck alone. I just want to be in the same space and I'm not bothering you. How come you are all bothering me? Go bother someone else. Can you not tell by my face that I am like engaged in my own thoughts right now? I'm thinking about things. I'm thinking about life, you know? So, and it was exhausting to me, is what it was. First of all, because I was really, I wanted, I treated small talk like it was big talk, like it was a big
mm,
deal. And I tried really hard or something, and I wasn't ready. I needed to have some, formulas in my head to follow.
mm,
Then I just worked out some ways to engage without working so hard. Like, I know, right? That's the best way to like do small talk. I know, right? That's it. They just said there's nothing to do except
go-to
for
phrase.
yeah. Yeah, okay, moving on. Bothering the next person because that one just said, I know, right? They did what they were supposed to do. They were very engaging and engaged, but just like for a second, and there's nothing else to do there. And you giggle, you smile, you do your part, but you don't have to engage. It was all it's also like I felt so pressured. Like I felt like I had to and I didn't want to, and there was a
Mm,
conflict And it just felt like I was being made to do things I didn't want to do. Um, Again, in a small town, it was like twofold, threefold, like
Yep,
quadrupled because people have nothing better to do. I tell you, I mean, honestly, it's just a different culture. I tell you,
it is.
it's not urban. And I just started like I would stay in just to avoid it. For like I just didn't want to, I didn't want it to be part of my life. Because it's an adjustment. It takes some time. So
Mhm,
and and it makes sense. It was a culture shock. It was a shock. Like when you move countries, it exhausts you per se. And then
mhm,
there's this engagement that you don't necessarily want. And then you don't necessarily like, yourself because you're different and you're trying to fit in to fit the mold. You don't really know how to navigate it yet. And then you have to like be part of a conversation and you want to be good at it. And there's like 1,000 conversations a day that you must have and you're like you're such a perfectionist, and that's also a huge part of the Eastern European culture. I think you want to
mm,
be great at having that conversation. You don't want it to be just mediocre. You want it to be fucking amazing, and it's like just this post-Soviet baggage that you also need to like shed, and that was a huge part of it. So I would say that small talk is not part of the Russian culture. It's just so much smaller. It's such a teeny tiny part of our culture.
mm.
It's just like, "How are you?" Um, we don't really say yeah, we do say, "How are you?"
But you really mean it, like, you wanna hear
That's what we all
kind of
say.
thing.
Yeah, that's also kind of,
Not
it's
true?
not really like,
Well,
that's not quite true. Like, we do say, "How are you?" to mean we do say the answer is not good. We say normal. Нормально. Как
mm,
дела? Нормально. We do that. We do that, honestly. But it's not this. How are you? It's like a very different, it's like super neutral kind of um signaling. It's like как дела? Нормально. It's like a very sort of nonchalant, like it's so you don't engage. It's almost like it's so what's the word for it? Jesus. It's um, so not easy to find words.
intrusive? Or, like
Not it yeah, I guess what happens here compared to that does feel intrusive in comparison.
mm,
So, it's very yeah, it's
like,
like
routine kind of thing?
a very routine type little element that is not even part of the conversation.
Mm,
So it doesn't take any effort at all. And it's not really it's like either we're having a conversation, or it's just part of like walking into a room and it's almost like we're not even looking at each other when we say "Как дела?" It's just like I'm here and I'm walking in, you know,
okay.
kind of like
Hmm,
that, I suppose, if you think about
okay.
it. So
I'm thinking it might be like French, like "Ça va? Ça va."
yes, very true. Because
Maybe.
it's not really again, Savai is not like, "Tell me what's happening," right? But it's
Like, you
not
acknowledge, you're like, "Yeah, yeah."
here, I'm here. Exactly.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. So you kind of alluded to it, but how did you adapt to small talk over time? You said that you learned go-to phrases. I know, right? And what else?
Well, that's the thing, like, I did first of all, I guess there's a dramatic element to it. I just kind of, I sort of began slowly but surely to disconnect from my, original culture, which happens when you stop going home because politically you're not allowed home, and you just you kind of grow closer to what you've got, uh, in your immediate surroundings, and it just starts to make so much more sense to you. Um, so it just um, it makes more sense once you let it in, and again. I think because of what I do for a living, it started to make more sense because I really, truly, like, you know, delved into it. I read up on it. I started to pay more attention. I got an MA in applied linguistics. Like I really, truly researched it some. So not just as, like my own self as a kind of a real life participant of life, but as someone who was a quote unquote researcher. But amongst other things, I think mm, it's like you stop treating it as something that's really, truly earnest, pertinent, and serious. You start treating it as what it is. Like it's social calibration, like it's social lubrication is what you can also refer to it as. I no longer think of it as like dishonest, performative, you know.
Mm,
I just it's like I know that there's a function to it. You're trying um to kind of create this sort of lighter ambience, a sort of an atmosphere. You're trying to cultivate lightness in a conversation and you're trying to align yourself with the other person. Like, are we on the same page in terms of, I don't know, like, do you want to talk to me about something that's more earnest and more important and of interest to us both? Like, we can just jump into it. It's just not culturally appropriate because that's
mm,
just how cultures work. Some things are like this, some things are like that. What's the point of fighting it, you know? Um, and it's just, again, it's just part of being a grown up culturally and otherwise. It's just like it's different here. It's part of the language, it's part of the body language, it's part of the facial expressions change. Because I remember when even the facial expressions change whenever I would travel back to Russia. I would also like I'd be the smiliest person on the block, you know.
mm.
And
And how's that
here
view?
exactly, right? And here it's like, well, again, it's a good thing I'm in New York. Sometimes I don't feel like smiling, and that's okay. You can do that here, not be the smiliest person of all. But then again, it's just like I smile and like I do so a lot and it's completely normal. And the same goes for Roman, my husband. But we somehow like we were always in between in this in between space because in Russia, before we even moved here, we'd be the smiliest, you know.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
here, it's we still, would be more on, like the other extreme, like the least. Uh, it's like it's because we're like it's two different worlds and we weren't fitting in back there, and then it took us some time to adjust here because still we would look a little bit gloomy and grim compared to the locals for some time because it takes a bit of time to develop the muscles and whatnot and some
Yeah.
habits. So and it just feels so natural, but it takes 10 years for it to start to feel natural, you know.
Mm.
So it's interesting like that. So yeah, I think of it as a
And
ritual, not a
mm,
confession, like some Catholic church. It's small talk and it's just it starts to feel different. Right?
I like that. See it as a ritual and not a confession, which actually might be the answer to this question. It was, what advice would you give to people who did grow up with small talk, but now live in North America?
Exactly, right. So
Mm,
well, first of all, if it's even more well, yeah, in terms of how you approach it, yeah. Uh not a confession, just a ritual, just lubricating, it's just like a car. It's like you're just trying to help it move better. And you want a conversation to work, you need to grease it a little bit. All right. So that's just
mhm,
how it goes. And you're not auditioning. Okay. You're not expected to be super interesting. Just be present, just be responsive. Yeah, I know, right? Right? I know. Yeah. Mhm. Nod. Smile, giggle a little bit. So it help, if you're a girl, I think it's because some guys are like, I don't want to giggle. I guess that makes sense. But girls, no pressure for you, I guess. Societally, giggle away. It helps in small talk for sure. So guys also giggle. It helps. Ask open questions. Yeah, so what did you think of this and that? You know, so like there's a movie that's out or there's a game that was on, culturally you want to be involved. Like you got to see the halftime show. There's a lot to talk about there. If you don't see the show, small talk, you're going to miss out. Everyone's going to talk about the freaking halftime show and everything around it. So you don't need to know much about American football. I know nothing about it, but I watch it for the halftime show and all the small talk around it. So, and then there's questions. What did you do this weekend? You ask the question on Monday and Tuesday. Then starting Wednesday, you ask people, what are you going to do this coming weekend? Those are the scenarios, right? And
Mhm.
that is really it. So, and you let people tell you, and then they will ask you. So you got to be ready. You got to be, you walk in and you got to think, okay, what did I do this weekend? And you can always go, nothing special, just watch TV, da 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 da. That's it. Just be ready so that you don't have to stand there and think, oh my God, what did I do this weekend? I didn't do anything. Just be ready. They can ask you about the weekend. Like they're gonna do that. They will.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
that's gonna happen. Like that's it. Trust me on that. So
Mhm.
echoing, like reacting, asking back, what about you? What did you do this weekend? That's success, right? Like short answers are fine. You don't have to like tell a whole story. Like neutral is fine. So, just like find the rhythm of it. And the more you do it, the better you're gonna get at it. Don't be afraid of it. So you get better at it. Trust me. I was the worst at it.
I like that. I'm still the person that's like, "What did you do last weekend?" What did I do?
What did I do? And you can always
Not
be
much, not much.
no, nothing. What about you? So, there you
That's
are.
good. That's a really good tips. You caught on to a lot of things that social norms we don't always like explicitly say, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just look at the comments really quick before I go on to the next questions. We have hello from Italy, from Sudan, Mexico. It's morning in Mexico.
Huh.
Buenos dias. Greetings from Ecuador. Um, we have another fellow American accent coach here, Jesus. Hello. I love seeing where everyone's from. Hello, hello from Houston, from Brazil.
Mhm.
Love it. I, and yeah, a lot of Facebook going on. I actually don't know how to say this country's name. Angola? Angola?
I know
Mhm.
how to say it in Russian. Oh, that's another thing that you struggle with your whole life. You don't know how to say the easiest, simplest things.
Oh, I can't either. It's okay. Um, all right. Indonesia. And again, Colombia. Reading? Reading. Is that a city?
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't know that one. Yeah.
I didn't know that one either. So this is the one I'm excited. I love asking almost every accent coach that comes on, and that is, what tips do you have for English learners who struggle with stress, flow, and intonation in English?
Right. So, like, I want to say, first of all, how sometimes people say, uh, you've got such a talent for languages, or like,
Oh yeah,
oh,
yeah.
like you're so good at this, like you're so lucky. And you're like, nope, that's not what
You don't
happened
know the work I put in.
at all. It was like so not it when I just started. It was not it. So, like, it's rarely like a talent issue. So, usually it's got to do with tension, tension. There's always tension, over control, and like this fear of sounding wrong.
Mm,
And when one does not tackle those things, there's no flow, intonation's off. And of course, you got to learn the stress patterns, right? You got to do the work. You got to get yourself a coach or get into a program to make sense of what's what. But all those things are going to be a bit until after you've worked with the tension stuff and done some body work because it's not just the sounds, it's not just the words, it's not just the technical stuff. It's what we've just, it's what we talked about at the beginning of the stream. So it's like English has got to be physical, not mental, Like
Mm.
so many people go, my English sounds so great in my head, and when I got to talk to somebody, it's like, uh, what's wrong with me? It's just that it's not just in here, right? It starts at your feet, right? And then you got to relax into it. Like, have you been following the Olympics?
Not
Uh,
really. My husband,
there's,
yes, but
there's this one girl, the American who got the golden medal. Is it gold medal? Golden? I don't think I
is she a
remember.
figure skater?
Yes,
And she
yes.
has, like, the hair and, like, she got a
The
bunch of
hair,
followers
yes, yes,
overnight.
before, yes,
Mhm.
and, a lot of people thought that it's just the post-Soviet legacy folk that would be getting the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, and a lot of them did, but my god, that girl, she's like Nelly Furtado, like, she's like, "I'm like a bird, da 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 da." Dude, what she does on that ice, she's like a bird. And she gave a couple interviews, and that philosophy that she's been embracing, she's like, "I'm not here for the gold. I'm not here for this. I'm not here for that. I'm here to, like, to enjoy myself." It sounds a bit banal when I say it, I don't know. Um she was the most relaxed figure skater I've seen in my entire life. I do
Mm.
follow figure skating a bit, and it's like she's flying, mate. She's not touching the ice. She's just flying. She's relaxing into it. She's not thinking. That's it. She's done the work. Okay. She's learned the moves. She's been working at it. She's been doing the work. And now she's just there to fly, fly above the ice. Right. And that is like the learning to relax. Because for some people, talking is just like taking part in the Olympics. Okay. It's like, it's a huge deal. There's so much is at stake, and there's so much, so many of us are introverted people. So many of us are under so much pressure, and there's so much tension, and there's so much history. And I don't know, we all come from this land called childhood, and, we've got so much trauma. Everyone does. Everyone, a certain amount is there. And we don't deal with it. And it's all going to live in your voice, and it's all going to get manifested in how you talk. And in your second language, third language, it's going to get double manifested. If you don't deal with it, if you don't learn to detense and really do the breath work and all that comes with it. And there's very certain things that can be done to help yourself in that department. You're not gonna be flying into it and relaxing into it just because you tell yourself to relax, you know? You can just
Mm.
go, "Just relax," Because if someone says to you, "Oh, calm down." If you gotta calm down when
That makes
someone tells you to calm down, first thing you wanna do is just, like, smack them in the face, all right? Just like, no, no, it doesn't work that way, right? So, um basically, it's the physical work, right? The non-mental and the mental, all those elements, the movement, the stress, like it's all got to be worked with on top of the individual sounds and the intonational patterns and the theoretical stuff that's got to be introduced to you. Um, so I guess that is something that I think is not talked about enough in our industry. How it's the body, it's the mind, it's how they're interconnected, and how if you do not talk about that and do not work with that, that's something they do in, like theater work. Actors work with that when they work with their voices. If you do not think about that or talk about that or work with that with a specialist or on your own a little bit in some program or just read up a little bit on it. Just think about it for a second, right? If you do not tackle that at all, it's going to find you and bite you in the ass, right? So, like,
Mm.
you got to do something about this. You ain't going to fly unless you've tackled it. So, well, I'm sort of repeating myself, but that's a huge part of it, and I just I can't repeat it enough. I can't say it enough, and that's a huge part. So, and there's 2 practical things you can do. Um, music, listen to music, y'all. Just sing along, and you do that in your videos on Instagram.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've
that's
had a few,
it.
but I truly believe in singing in like
Yes.
language learning.
Because English is the most music like, I don't know, like, I will say that, again and again, it's the most musical, the most musical, language, phonetically, intonationally speaking, out there. Not Chinese, no, English. To me, it is always going to be in terms of the rhythmical stuff, it's always going to be English. I mean, hip hop, rap, it's no coincidence that that's where it originated. So you gotta just think of English as music, and it starts with singing along. So just start there for the rhythmical and intonational elements of it all. And then overdo it in practice. So if you
Overdo it. Yeah, I see that too, and I'm just like, that's how I learned in my other languages, but it's just like overdo it, exaggerate it. It feels weird, but it kind of pushes you from like the other extreme of like being too stiff to like over flexible so that you could find that medium. That's how I see it. I'm curious how you
100%.
see it.
And one of my colleagues would always introduce this metaphor how, at a concert when someone like whoever is performing, they will go like, "How are you guys feeling?" Like the first time, they always go, "Good," and like the rock star, whoever is on stage, they have to like say it again. No, no, let's do it again. How are you guys feeling? Right? So it's like no one's going to overdo it the first time round. So it's almost like it's in our nature to not overdo it. So it's okay to like kind of dial it up. We will dial it back. Like the it's in our nature to underdo it. So we most certainly will get it back into the middle. Later on down the road. Like there's no we shouldn't be concerned about overdoing it later on.
Yeah, like
So
becoming like Miss Rachel all the time.
yeah, like we're
Hi guys.
eyes will be just fine, honest. So definitely overdo it, and
Yeah,
it's like it teaches the nervous system. It's completely fine. So
mm,
yeah,
I
so
like it.
that's the thing that I would say. That's
So some people might be wondering, how can I find you and how can I work with you? What are the best ways for people to find you?
well, I am on Instagram. That is where I found you. I stalked you first.
Oh, did you?
I did. So you can find me. The handle is carry dot on dot accent. That is my handle, carry on accent, or just carryonaccent.com. So that is my website. There you can find all the info that you need about me and about the work I do and the services that I offer. So, um, yeah, but definitely do find me on Instagram because uh, I am a lot on there. So, would love to see you there, y'all. Yeah.
You're very pretty, like carousels. I'm so impressed
I
each time.
know. I know.
And for those watching the replay, there will be links down below on where to find Carrie and other books that we mentioned. It's not there yet. On the replay, though, I will have that ready.
This awesome is over.
So, yeah, when it's over. So, to end this, we are going to, well, I'm going to say first off, thank you, Carrie, for coming.
Oh, pleasure.
And thank you to everyone else who came live and for those watching the replays. So, see you guys later. I'll see you on the other side, Carrie. Bye, guys.
Absolutely.